So let's talk for a minute about advice. My experience is that as we're trying to heal ourselves or as we're trying to achieve a goal for our business or some area of our life, um, especially maybe if we're suffering and there's people around us who love us, you know, they will tend to give us advice and tell us what to do. You need to do this, or you need to do that, or here's how you're going to solve your problem. And the problem with advice is that it can actually make our challenges harder to achieve because we're actually being pushed around by somebody who thinks they know what we need to do, but they don't actually know what we need to do. And in fact, advice can be subtly critical because in giving you advice, they are not appreciating the fact that you have resources, you have the ability to get answers from inside yourself, from just contemplating the problem and its solutions and its causes. And you have the ability to ask for advice from experts who actually do have expertise with this particular problem that you're tackling. You have the ability to get on Google, and do a search and spend an hour or two reading other articles from experts who've dedicated years to solving this problem, whatever it is. If it's a business problem, if it's an anxiety or health problem, whatever your problem is. But what often happens is that people feel the need to give us advice, and it's because they want to help. They care about us. Our friends, our family, they care about us, and they want to help. The problem is that their wanting to help can be strong desire, and desire isn't actually love. This was a big shock to me when I realized this. Desire is desire. It's not love. It's you want the situation to be different because you're not at peace. You have a hard time accepting this person's suffering or this person's problem, the state that this person is in. So you want it to be different. And so from your strong desire, which is a state of not being at peace, you feel the need, you must give them advice. You must tell them what to do. You must step in. And you hope that advice will help them. But what you're not really aware of is that your advice really sucks. Because, and you think too highly of your advice, actually. Um, Now, especially I think this happens if the dynamic is that you tend to play the underdog and they tend to play the top dog, because in our lives, some of us tend to play the role of the victim, whereas other people tend to play the role of the bully or, superior, pride. Their vice might be pride, while your vice is more self-pity or self-doubt. Your where you tend to go with your emotions, your personality, and your thought process. So, of course, someone who's coming from pride is not really qualified to give advice. So this is why, in the field of psychology, we've moved from counseling, which could be a lot of advice, and moved and teaching, but teaching is usually done by experts. So we've moved from counseling more to coaching. So now we have more and more people doing coaching, and even the counselors are saying they'll do coaching. But the truth is, a really great coach, they may do some advising, but usually they advise about areas that they really have expertise in. Like if they're a business coach, they may suggest certain actions for you to do in your business. If they're a health coach, they may suggest certain dietary changes or using certain therapies or supplements or whatever. But if they're really trained and they're really a great coach, they will realize that they shouldn't be giving a lot of advice. They should be asking a lot of questions because they're supporting you in your process of navigating your own situation and moving it forward. They're supporting you in asking good questions. They're supporting you in questioning, what's really important to look at here and what really matters and what have I tried and how did that go? And they're assisting you in managing your mind, and by asking you questions. So they have good questions at the right time and they ask them in a way that feels right. So it's really a cooperative process. And if your coach is really good at asking great questions, eventually you will hear their voice in your head when they're not around. And you'll start to ask yourself great questions because you've internalized those questions and you've internalized how they think about solving a problem. So a coach is someone who's learned how to solve problems, you know, by mind managing, by navigating focus and attention and questions and critically evaluating things. But all of that is not advice. So Dr. Bach is the founder. Sometimes people actually it's pronounced Bach, I think, Bach, the creator of the Bach flower remedies. That we're often see in health food stores and stuff. Those kind of drops you take, like Rescue Remedy is one of them. Well, he said famously, he seemed to be a very wise guy to me, wise healer, and he said that one of those remedies, I believe it's the remedy called Serato, which I've taken many times. Serato is a light blue flower. I believe it's from Tibet. It's a beautiful flower with, I think, 8 petals, and it's taken for people who self-doubt, who tend to second guess their decisions, which I definitely tend to do, like to an extreme, disabling. So I take this essence. I know this about myself. So for the Bach flower Serato, he said this is a flower for people who tend to second guess, and then they tend to go and ask for advice from other people, and then they tend to not follow the advice, even when it's great advice. They tend to not follow it, which I totally see that. I totally see that pattern in myself. But he also said that often the people who love us the most get in the way the most of us achieving our goals because they interfere too much. They can't just be calm and listen and hold space, and which means just to be calm and listen, but they have to get in there and tell us what to do. And that makes us even more confused. So now instead of actually having more clarity and actually moving forward with that, now we've got their advice in our head, and now we're even second guessing ourselves even more. Now our head is really spinning. And so advice can really get in people's way. So what you want to do, stop giving advice, or if you're going to give advice, give it gently, because it means you realize that you don't really know. You think you know what someone needs to do, but if you're a really wise person, then you know that everything you think you know could be wrong. Unless you're like 20, even if you studied something, even if you studied something for 20 years, still that you could be wrong. Because if you're a wise person, you know that we're learning things all the time, and all the time we are learning that, oh, I was wrong about that. You can be wrong about something for 20 years. You can be wrong about something, and everyone else can be wrong about it too. I mean, just because everyone thinks that thing doesn't mean it's the right thing to do, or it's true. At one point, everybody smoked. I mean, everybody. Teenagers smoked. Doctors recommended smoking if you had anxiety. This is like 1940s, 1920s, 1930s. You might think that was a long time ago, but I promise there are things we're doing now that we're gonna look back on in 30 years. We're gonna go, wow, that was dumb. So anyone can be wrong anytime. So having a quality of humility, which is a virtue, means that when you give advice, be gentle about it. Unless if you got a really strong, clear gut feeling that this is the right advice and that you should give it in a strong way, then give it in a strong way. But that degree of intuitive rightness, of gut feeling, it feels right. I don't think that's all that common. People tend to give advice, especially when they feel they have to give it. They're not at peace. They're in a strong emotion of desire, of wanting to change the situation for the person. And any strong emotion will cover up your intuition, your sensitivity to your intuition. So if you give advice, I say give it gently. Say it once maybe or twice, but don't batter the person over the head with your advice. Better than advice could be a good question, or it could be just, learning to have faith that people can solve their problems themselves and that their problem is being worked out. I believe everyone is being guided in their life. Their life is being overshadowed by the intelligence of their higher self. You can call that God, you can call that the Great Spirit, you can call that their higher self, you can call it whatever you like, really. But I believe everybody's guided, everybody's got higher intelligence within them that is overshadowing them, that is working with them. It's where your insights and intuitions come from. It's where that dream comes from when you wake up in the morning and you go, oh, that's a good idea. I should do that. And then maybe later you forget and you don't do it. But there's something in us, that provides an idea at just the right time and drops a new idea into your head when you're struggling, when you finally quiet your mind. And many great discoveries and inventions have come about just that way. One second the idea was not there, the next second it's there, and it's fully formed and it's clear. You know, Steve Jobs saw how the computer would work while on LSD. He saw it. It came fully formed. It was like boom. It was not a logical progression of steps. The mind made a leap and presented him that idea, and he thought, oh my God, that could work, and the computer, and then he went about and built it, and it worked, But the amazing thing is, other people, I've heard that when a discovery is made like that, it's usually several people on the planet at the same time have the idea about the same time, and maybe one of them patents it, becomes famous for it, but in reality, a higher mind seeded or gave that idea to us, to humanity, to receptive minds at the same time. So we are being led in our lives, and you can have faith in that process and have faith that, and this takes a long time to learn, and I think it really helps if we meditate, because then we're learning to quiet down and calm and relax all our emotions, relax desire, relax worry, and not worry about people so much, because now you meditate and you're becoming a calmer, quieter, person, and you're more able to trust and have faith that people are being overshadowed, and if they want advice, they'll ask you for it, and probably it's wise to even say to people when they start giving advice, say to them, I really appreciate you're trying to help. I can feel that you care, but I'm not really looking for it. I actually feel I have a pretty good handle on this. I feel like I'm doing all right. Or just straight up, I'm not really wanting any advice about this. Thank you. And just let them know. So that's my chat about advice. Summarize, less advice can be better for us, for humanity. Less advice and more listening, less advice and more good questions. Um, more and more I'm learning to let people be and just leave them alone, and to take care of myself. And that is actually might be the better service, is to just focus on changing myself and working with my own life and situations, because I'm the only one who's in my own life and will have as much. No one's going to be more motivated than I am to fix my problems. So if everyone did that, I think it would be a better world.